of this hour to help continue to break down what we are just continuing to bring to all our viewers right now. Bob Menendez found guilty on these bribery charges, all of the charges. So here's our next guest here, a friend here of the program on Live Now from Fox, former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. Thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now, and what a moment this is for the senator. And my question for you, though, is it seemed like the evidence was really damning against the senator. Why did it take this long, do you think, for the jury to come to this conclusion?
Isn't a whole lot if you think about a 9-week jury trial. Now, obviously, this is just a rule of thumb, but jurors tend to deliberate approximately 1 hour for each day of witness testimony. So the fact that they got this case in the end of last week on Friday, actually, and we have a verdict on Tuesday, isn't something that's surprising, in my opinion. I do think it was a strong case. Obviously, when you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and gold bars in your closet with your fingerprints and other identifying information, that is a bad look. You have a cooperating witness. Obviously, I'm a former federal prosecutor. I have a little bit of a pro-prosecution stance, but I thought the defense did the best job they could under the circumstances. They pointed the finger at Senator Menendez's wife, Nadine. She had more of a direct contact with some of the individuals that were at the center of this bribery scandal. Obviously, it's always easy to point at the empty chair, even if it's your wife. There's also the argument that successfully worked in the senator's previous bribery trial in Florida, where the defense argued that this is just what elected officials do on behalf of their constituents. This is part of being a Congress member, whether you're in the House or Senate. Obviously, wasn't enough to persuade those 12 jurors. I tip my hat to the Department of Justice for investigating this case, bringing this case, and bringing the senator down in one of the biggest corruption trials in recent memory.
Yeah, but you remember when I remember the day that indictment came down, and when you talked about gold bars, hundreds of thousands of dollars inside a closet, stuffed inside shoe boxes, stuffed inside suit coats. There, that's all that evidence there came out, and it was really damning against the senator, who in the past, like you mentioned, has had issues and allegations always against him.
And you're right, Mike, and I remember it vividly too. And we've really seen this shift in what I like to call speaking indictments, indictments that are meant for public consumption. And like you said, when I started, and I'm here at my alma mater right now, Harvard Law School, and we're taught to draft pleadings and indictments. There were no pictures, 20, 25 years ago, but you're seeing pictures embedded in these charging documents. And that's not for the lawyers or for the judges. That's for the public. And when you have that type of powerful evidence, it was very hard for the senator to get away from. He tried to argue that because of his upbringing in communist Cuba, that he had this fear, this scarcity mindset, and that's why he stuffed, those hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in his closet and not in banks like people typically would. Now, of course, folks like myself associate what we're seeing with the proceeds of illegal activity. People transacting cash oftentimes to cover up their tracks. So I think that's something that I think the prosecution did a good job on. And frankly, the defense didn't. They didn't call the senator. I think he would have gotten destroyed on cross-examination, but they called some family members, including the senator's sister, as a witness, testify about this fear that the senator had. And ultimately, I don't think it carried the day.
And Neama, we are just getting a word of a 2-minute warning. We don't know if that'll be prosecutors coming up to the podium. That is what we think is going to happen here. So once that does happen, we will bring our viewers to this podium. But what would, of course, they want to do a big victory lap. This is a huge win for the Department of Justice. And really not only just showcasing, though, Neama, just how it's not political. It's if you have the charges against you, the evidence against you, it doesn't matter if you have a D in front of your name or an R.
It really does. And now, obviously, the Department of Justice has been under attack recently. I mean, we've seen so many high profile political prosecutions. I mean, it just really baffles the mind that the senator's case, a sitting US senator who's been charged with bribery not once, but twice. The first time a senator has been charged with acting as an agent of a foreign country. We're seeing more of these FARA prosecutions and actually convicted of doing so, acting as an agent of Egypt. But probably in the past year, this would be the third most serious political corruption, not in terms of the charges, of course, but just the nature of the target. Obviously, Donald Trump being number one, Hunter Biden, too, given his proximity to President Joe Biden. This is a little bit of an afterthought, but for someone like myself to charge and convict a sitting United States senator of bribery, corruption, obstruction, acting as an agent of a foreign government, guilty on all counts. Huge win for the prosecution, and I fully expect them to do a victory lap right now, like you said, Mike.
All right. Neama Rahmani, thank you so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox, really giving us some great insight and analysis on this. We really, really appreciate it, and we'll get to that podium here in just moments. But thank you so much again.
Of course. Thanks, Mike.